Thank you for joining us for Weekdays Live with Reverend Al Sharpton. Take the time to share this broadcast right now. Tell your friends it's time to keep it real with Reverend Al. Comment your questions now in the chat or call Reverend Al Sharpton directly on air at 877-532-5797. Now stay tuned for Reverend Al.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton. As you watch the broadcast, support National Action Network. Go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net and be involved. You can join, take your membership right online, www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Getting ready to start the program, but we need you to be part of the movement.
So it's become almost an unhealthy habit how much I'm listening to Keep It Real, because it is the realest thing on the air anywhere, whether it be online or whether it be on the radio or wherever it's coming into you from, because there's no one of Rev's importance and caliber who is as dominant a media figure as he is, who allows people to speak at length, and who he treats with equal respect and admiration with every call, whether he agrees with you or not. And I'm not gonna throw shade at anybody, but there are a lot of people with big platforms like the Rev has who are afraid to talk to the people and who are afraid that the people will keep it real with them. And he never shies away from anything any of us want to talk to him about. And he doesn't shut you up. It's not a soundbite, it's a conversation. So I would like people in media to learn from this man who is carrying MLK's torch. Don't be afraid of people. Listen to them, respect them, and stand in God and stand in truth. Thank you, Nan. Thank you, Rev. Thank you, everybody who puts this together and sends it out across the world, because we need much more of it. Bless you.
Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton time. It's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. The time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. You need to keep it real with Reverend Al Sharpton right here on Uber TV. Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Let's go back to the phone. Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is. Every day, Monday through Friday, I do 3 hours a day on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. I do 1 hour on Sunday mornings with Reverend Al Sharpton. And I'm live on radio and TV with the Saturday Action Rally. 7 days a week, I talk to our people, hear from them, to call in. I'm sick and tired of people talking for people that they don't talk to. So go on www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Listen to my show, call in, express your opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But let's start talking to each other rather than about each other and lecturing at each other. Let's keep it real with Sharpton.
Happy 20th anniversary to Reverend Al Sharpton on 20 years of Keeping It Real. 2 decades of truth-telling, fearless advocacy, and keeping the people informed and empowered. Thank you for always speaking power to justice.
April the 30th. Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton's time. And for the next 3 hours, it's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. The time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. A very good afternoon to you all across the country. Good morning to our West Coast listeners, and welcome to those listening on Sirius XM. Channel 126, The Urban View, where talk empowers and becomes action. I'm coming to you live from our National Action Network corporate headquarters in New York. For the next 3 hours, you can join the conversation by calling us at 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797, or tweet us at twitter.com, The Rev Al, or more direct, you can go to our message board at www.nationalactionnetwork.net and express yourself and give us your greetings, give us your opinion. So much is happening in the last 24 hours. This ruling on the voting rights, taking the use of race out of any consideration for voting rights protections. Clearly, you may have a thought, you may have a suggestion of where we go from here. I did a Zoom call with other civil rights leaders, Melanie Campbell of Black Women's Roundtable, and Mark Morial, the National Urban League, and Siobhan Eileen Bradley of National Council of Negro Women and others. And I said that, I had announced at the National Action Network's convention the last day that we were going to do a 23-city tour. Now we need to do it more than ever. I have our field director, Reverend Toon, setting it up now, and we're escalating, because what we need to do is come out and vote more than ever. Why do I say that? They may try to redraw congressional lines, but they can't redraw state lines. So the U.S. Senate races and the presidential primaries are not affected by this. It's affected by congressional lines, state legislative lines, county lines. As we fight that in the state legislators, we can topple some of these U.S. senators, some of these attorney generals, some of these governors on a statewide level, because a lot of people are predicting that a lot of your MAGA crowds go carved out thinking, well, the blacks, we tore up their districts, they may or may not come out and vote in big numbers. We have an incentive to vote. We have a reason to break all barriers. The other thing, and I said this on Morning Joe this morning, the other thing you have to remember is more than half of the Congressional Black Caucus were elected from mixed seats, meaning mixed race seats, not just districts that were all black, districts that were 40% black, districts 45% black, meaning that if we come out and vote big numbers, we're going to keep those districts. And we can still see where the lines are drawn where we can raise possible wins. So my thing is, it is a setback, it is a devastating blow, but we've been hit before. And the question is, where do we go forward? Not crumble and say, wow, they hit us, I'm going to just lay on the floor. One, I did not feel they wasn't going to hit us. And I think that we've got to go for it. And we're going to. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how the supreme leader in Iran is saying that he's going to protect nuclear capabilities as energy prices are soaring to a 4-year high. Khomeini has said, the new supreme leader, I believe it's Mojtaba, I hope I'm saying it right. Khomeini has said that his country will protect its nuclear and missile programs as national assets, signaling no willingness to back down as contentions continue to rise over the Strait of Hormuz. And this is a vital global oil route. 20% plus of the world's oil transports through that strait, which means that Trump can talk all he wants about we don't have a lot of U.S. go through there, but the people we trade with goes through there. And if they can't get through there, how do you trade? Somebody call the president and say 1 + 1 = 2. I mean, it's illogical to think that if your trading partners with oil can't get through, that it don't affect you. It does affect you. Another news bulletin that I caught my eye, South Carolina State, the university disinvited the Lieutenant Governor Yvette to speak at the commencement after the students say what she said and did is a slap in their face. And students at South Carolina State University organized protests, sit-ins, and petitions opposing Lieutenant Governor Pamela Yvette as commencement speaker, arguing her stance against DEI conflicted with HBCU values. I'm so proud of South Carolina State students standing up. Student activism is what started a lot of what we got out of the 60s, and we're going to need student activism again. And that's a major statement, and many of us have been marching. In fact, today, Thursday, I think this is the 109th week we've been marching on the offices, picketing the offices of Bill Ackman, who helped to start and finance the anti-DEI campaign. We just keep it out there. Just keep it out there. Like torture. Just boom, one drop at a time. And now you got students and others picking it up. I'm very happy to hear that. And, it's just interesting to me. The Lieutenant Governor Yvette, who they disinvited, she called the protesting students woke mobs. And University Professor Kanye said they reversed the decision, citing safety concerns. But woke mobs, they cannot debate issues, and they cannot defend the merit of their stands. They have to go into name calling. You're a mob, woke mob. No, you might be a student that understands if there's DEI gone, then that affects your ability to get jobs. That affects your ability, if you're in business, to get a contract. That affects a lot of things. Not no mob. It's dealing as an intelligent student that's going to college and understands what DEI means. Maybe they don't. And it is... Let's talk about all of this. Certainly the Supreme Court decision, and I think Justice Elena Kagan Justice Kagan in writing the dissent was right. Said this makes it just a piece of paper. The Voting Rights Act. We've got to turn it around. Tanya Stovall says on our message board, it really shows how much racism is still around and has been amplified by Trump and the Supreme Court. For the blacks who think Trump and others in the GOP like you, wake up. And as I said, Judge Kagan, let me tell you something. I remember when Kagan was running for judge, and I think in 2014, and I supported her. In fact, I have a handwritten note from her hanging in my office here at Nan Corporate thanking me. I'm glad. I looked at that note last night that was framed because it was from a Supreme Court judge thanking me for helping her. And I'm glad I did. That's why you vote. That's why you support people, because you expect them to support the values and things you believe in. That's why. So all you run around talking about don't vote, you are helping the enemies of our community. Whether you realize it or not, I give you the benefit of the doubt. Some of you just naive, but some of y'all know better. Let's take a break. I'm going to open up the phones, 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, keeping it real. It's policy day. Let's talk. Be right back.
Breaking news.
I remember I was 12 years old. I was a boy preacher in the Church of God in Christ. Bishop Sheard knew my bishop, Bishop Washington. Bishop Washington, my mother was concerned I was getting into politics. They brought us to Reverend William Jones. His daughter's traveling with us. And Reverend Jones introduced me to Jesse Jackson. I became his youth director in New York at 13. I liked Reverend Jackson because he was a little hipper than the older preachers. He was 27, I was 13 by the time I became youth director. So he was like a father figure to me. When I got about 40, he said, quit calling me father, call me big brother. We went to the car center, and James Meeks and Jesse Jr. and I had dinner with him that night. And that's where he said to us, Al, Meeks, Jesse Jr., y'all are my disciples. And we said, disciples? And for years we joked each other. I'd come in the room and Junior said, here's disciple number one. What discipleship meant, you carried forth the vision. The next day, he took me on the ferry to Goree Island, Mrs. Jackson. On Goree Island, he showed me where the slave camps were. And I will never forget, he said, Al, you see what that artifact is? I said, what's that? He said, they call it the door of no return. When you go through that door, you either made it to America to slavery, or you died in the Atlantic. The door of no return. But I talked to him about 3 years ago, and I reminded him, I said, remember when you brought me to the door of no return? He said, yeah. I said, well, we did return. We returned the President of the United States, Barack Obama. We returned the Vice President, Kamala Harris. We returned with businessmen. They thought they sent us as slaves. We came back as global liberators. The problem is that too many of us did not join the movements that sponsored us. And there was a breakout in 2024 called Negro Amnesia, where you forgot where you came from and forgot how you got where you got. Therefore, they're trying to take back everything you had. I thank God I was blessed to have both in my life. Both historic
strong figures. But if I misuse them and listen to not only figures that are not as historic as them, but figures that had nothing to do with the calling and purpose of my life, I would live confused. I'd be double-minded. I'm clear. And what I want you to do is be clear. Clear on who you are and why you are. And a lot of that will be exposed to you and others by who you are around and who you allow to enter your head. Keep people at a distance that only have a distant and unclear vision of who you are and who you are supposed to be. They could be your blood relatives, but they could not be the ones that accompany you toward what you ought to be about. Everybody good to you ain't good for you. Everybody that makes you laugh sometimes end up making you a joke.
Tony Wafer, Los Angeles chapter, NASDAQ Network. She just came here to New York a couple days ago, had to stop by the House of Justice, and I sure enough found some justice, so I know I can leave here feeling like I got peace.
Tried to turn it into a nightmare. We come to Wall Street rather than Washington this year to let them know you can try to turn back the clock, but you can't turn back time. We gonna keep the dream alive on Wall Street.
Brooklyn, now I'm down in Tribeca, right next to De Niro, but I'll be hood forever, I'm the new Sinatra, and since I made it here, I can make it anywhere, yeah they love me everywhere, I used to cop in Harlem, all of my Dominicanos right there up on Broadway, pulled me back to that McDonald's, took it to my stash spot, 560 State Street, catch me in the kitchen like a Simmons whipping pastry, cruising down A Street, off-white Lexus, driving so slow, but BK is from Texas, me I'm out that Bed-Stuy, home of that boy Biggie, now I live on Billboard, and I brought my boys with me. Say what up to Tata, still sipping my top. Sitting courtside, Knicks and Nets give me high five. I be spiked out, I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I most definitely from. Hey.
get it twisted. Everybody hollering loud ain't saying something. We need activists that are at large, but we need those that will continue these institutions and these organizations. If you are what you should be, you don't have to have nobody step aside. People will push you up. Keeping it real, keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and 1-877-532-5797, or go to our message board. And the message board is hot today. We getting all kind of messages. And some of them new pieces, new messages. I see N.M. John McKinney, John McKinney saying we all just keep voting for fascist Republicans, and he's writing stuff I cannot understand his spelling. But thank you for your message. Now, if you want me to read it, you got to write it in words I understand. I don't know with Denmo. Well, you got to write words I understand, sir, or our staff understand. James Mitchell writes, the inflation gauge has jumped to the highest level in 3 years. You guess it, gasoline prices are pushing it higher. That's true. That's true. Cedric Cooper's writing, voting is not selective accountability. Voting is all of our responsibility. And you know, I wish that all of us would do something. And I've already done mine, so I can ask you to join me. I want you to call the one or two people you know that said voting doesn't matter, and that says, well, why are y'all voting Democrat, not Republican? And I said to them, voting does matter because everything we do in life is decided by somebody elected. The clothes we wear, the medicine we're able to buy, the pharmacies where they are located, housing, all that's decided. And whether we vote or not, the people elected are going to make the decision, so we should be in. No, voting don't make a difference. And then why are you going Democrats? I'm not going on Democrats' side, I'm going on my side. If we got the Democrats are closer to my side than the Republicans, it is, to me, just nonsensical not to go to your advantage. If you were in any African nation leading a rebellion, you would go with who best address your needs. So I don't think you ought to be locked into the Democratic Party or locked into the Republican Party or locked out of it. You base yourself, like everybody else does, on self-interest. So here's the favor I want. I want you to call or text somebody, if you know more than one, at least two, that you know that said vote no matter, and there ain't no difference between Kamala and Trump, and ask them to explain to you now what we should do now. Just real simple. Trump got in, you said it didn't make a difference. They have now taken away any voting rights protection. They've now not extended Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. He's got oil prices going through the roof, which is mean paid more at the gas pump. So since you didn't make a difference, tell me what we should do now. call two people that said that. Because I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that maybe they didn't understand we understood this could be the results of us not voting or us voting for Mr. Trump. So to give them the benefit of the doubt, say, okay, that was your opinion. I disagree with it. Y'all won. Y'all in charge. Here's what's happening. Gas is up. Voting protection. The Supreme Court just took race out. What do we do now? And I want to see if they are grown enough to admit they were wrong. Now, I called 2 or 3 people, 2 of them well known. And I'll admit, and I'm glad to admit, one of them said, Reverend, you was right. I was wrong. I didn't think they would do this. The other 2 tried to play games. Well, I just didn't think that things was right. What do we do now? And why are we behaving like this makes sense? I tried to lay down a little history this morning on the Morning Joe. Blacks were never given the right to vote until after the Emancipation Proclamation, when in the Reconstruction. We're talking the 1860s, 70s. 1860s and 70s, we put 9 blacks in Congress. They came with the end of Reconstruction, came with the Plessy versus Ferguson law, and we lost all the members of Congress and what they stood for, what they voted for, the laws that protected us. It's just not about 9 folks with some titles. It's about our interests. Lost them all. Didn't get 9 plus until 1969. How did we get them? Because of the 65 Voting Rights Act protected our right to vote. If you look at the data, ever since they started backing up on the Voting Rights Act, with the whole case of the Holder case, then you saw voting registration go down. These are facts. We can argue different opinions, can't argue different facts. This was a systemic walk. And while we had some people that were naive enough to say, vote ain't make a difference, somebody done told them that. And you had some people, well, the Democrats just bad as Republicans because they haven't done no research. And the Democrats are not perfect, but they're certainly better than the Republicans on some of our issues. And then you had others, well, no, we gone. I'm a revolutionary. I ain't with that. Some of them are revolutionaries. Some of them are Republicans acting like revolutionaries. So give them a chance. Explain to you what's the next step now. Because I'm saying we're going to have to mobilize and vote like we never did before. Why? Because voting, as I said, these district lines are congressional lines, state legislative lines, county lines, not state-wide lines. No restriction on you voting senator, U.S. senator, governor. And if we're in marginal districts, if we come out in bigger numbers than the other side, you still hold your seats. We need to shock them like they shocked some of y'all yesterday. BB said we need a march. Yeah, we do. That's why I marched last year on Wall Street, and we're going to do some more. I'm telling you, when you sit around and play, sleep, they will take you out. I'm definitely planning to hit those 23 cities. I'm definitely planning to have a national coming together, whether it be a huge rally or march. I definitely plan that we need to challenge on July 4th this whole 250th anniversary Declaration of Independence. We were not included. Some of them that signed it owned slaves. Let's take a break. I'm going to open up the phones. 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, keeping it real. Be right back.
So it's become almost an unhealthy habit how much I'm listening to Keep It Real, because it is the realest thing on the air anywhere, whether it be online or whether it be on the radio or wherever it's coming into you from, because there's no one of Rev's importance and caliber who is as dominant a media figure as he is, who allows people to speak at length, and who he treats with equal respect and admiration with every call, whether he agrees with you or not. And I'm not gonna throw shade at anybody, but there are a lot of people with big platforms like the Rev has who are afraid to talk to the people and who are afraid that the people will keep it real with them. And he never shies away from anything any of us want to talk to him about. And he doesn't shut you up. It's not a soundbite, it's a conversation. So I would like people in media to learn from this man who is carrying MLK's torch. Don't be afraid of people. Listen to them, respect them, and stand in God and stand in truth. Thank you, Nan. Thank you, Rev. Thank you, everybody who puts this together and sends it out across the world, because we need much more of it. Bless you.
This organization has been on the front line. People ask me, why do families call us? Because we never leave them. No justice, no justice. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? When do we want it? When do we want it? Some of you forget where you come from and forget how you got there and act like you got there because you were qualified or that you had a good resume. But some of us had to pay a price for your resume to even be read. Some of us had to take nights in jails and licks upside the head or shut out of boardrooms like Byron so you could walk down red carpets and act like you got there by yourself. So I received this award with a special, special place in my heart and on my shelf because I'm getting it from a freedom fighter who never forgot where he came from and how he got there. Yes, we've come a long way. We've had now a black president and now a black vice president. But we still can get shot down and have to march to get a case in court. We still can get shut out of boardrooms. We're still doubly unemployed in a good economy. So we're gonna have to keep marching. And I thank not only my family, a mother that raised me by herself, but I thank that lady at the end of the march that knows she won't be on TV that night and knows her name will never be in the paper, but she believed in me enough to get at the end of the line and make me look good. Because Dr. King used to say, if you call a march and no one shows up, you just going for a walk. And I want to thank those that marched with me. 32 years ago, here in Los Angeles, we marched. And then many years later, with George Floyd and others, we're still marching. And I'm gonna keep marching, I'm gonna keep agitating, and I'm gonna keep going. Until we don't have to do it anymore. Eddie, known you a long time, Mariah, christen your kids. And I promise you this, the only thing that I really live for
I am
is
your
I
host,
get up with this.
Reverend Al Sharpton, and we are back. 1-877-532-5797. Let me say by way of announcement, make sure you watch Politics Nation with Al Sharpton this weekend, especially Saturday night. I'm going to have on some of the heavy hitters. I'm going to do most of the show on what we need to do now about our voting protection given the Supreme Court. This is going to be a special show on Saturday night. Where do we go from here? How did this happen? What is the statistical ways we can overcome it, in what states you need to watch it? And I'm going to have the heavy hitters on as we lay this out. Politics Nation with Al Sharpton, Saturday and Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm live both nights. You that are in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area, I will be at the Saturday Action Rally at the historic Mother AME Zion Church in Harlem, 137th Street in Lenox. 9 a.m. to 11, we're going to lay out a lot of where we have to go as we come now to salvaging what we can out of this Supreme Court decision and what's the next steps. You that are not in the New York area, you can watch it live on Impact Television or at YouTube/NAN or at nationalactionnetwork.net. All right, let's go right to the phones. Let's go to Chicago. Well, don't just go to Chicago. Let's go to the west side, because he says it's the best side. My ace boom coon, brother Frank. Frank, you keeping it real with Al Sharpton. I don't hear Frank. Is Frank there? All right, let's go.
I try to get Frank back.
Let's go to Leon in Dallas, Texas. Leon,
Good afternoon, Reverend Al.
good afternoon.
Yeah, couple of things. First of all, this Supreme Court decision. I'm a kind of a computer guy, a statistics guy, so I did some research. And what's the percentage of African Americans in Louisiana? Well, it's about 30%, give or take a few percent. And how many congressional seats does Louisiana have? 6. Well, what's the 30% of 6 is 2, not 1. So this bifurcated gerrymandering process that they're doing in this country is, as they said back in the founding of the country, taxation without representation. Well, the issue now is what's going to be done by the population to fight back against this power grab, this racial supremacist power grab that, from my perspective, I see happening. Well, you mentioned marching, and biblically, the children of Israel walked around the walls of Jericho for 7 days, I think it was. I'm not a
7 days.
a theologian such as yourself. Well, which meant that, and I'm saying this parenthetically, one march won't do it.
Right.
The people in Louisiana got to be willing to do whatever it takes to march. It took the Montgomery bus boycott a whole year before it actually got traction and it produced results. So if we're not fighting back against this onslaught, according to history, well, the Roman Empire lasted for hundreds of years because the fight back wasn't good enough.
Right. And wasn't consistent enough.
I'm sorry?
And was not consistent enough.
Right. Now, secondly, I want to give a shout out to Miss Glenda Glover, president of Tennessee State.
Yes.
And I want to congratulate her on her effort to recruit young African-American men to go to Tennessee State and Emory Harry Medical School.
Yes.
And not just because of the theme itself, but because she, as an African-American woman in a position of authority and power, is not leaving her black men behind.
And would not do it. That she was president of Tennessee State, stood up for black men. I went and spoke at the college for her several times. In fact, I taught a course there virtually during COVID because of Glenda. And in fact, they gave me an honorary degree from there. You're right. She stood up as a black woman saying, no, we've got to stand up with our black men. And it's not one or the other. It's all of us. I totally agree. Nobody's better in academia to me than Glenda Glover.
Yes. And because, well, I'm out here in the mainstream, I see imagery as well. Maybe you can be more successful if you don't associate yourself with an African-American male.
Right. And
these images are subliminal, but some of them are kind of like in your face.
Oh, yeah.
So I just want to say that I want to congratulate and give kudos to Dr. Glover, because she is really a sister.
Yeah.
And she's appreciated.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. We need to always commend those that stand up when they don't have to and when they don't think nobody's looking. That's great. I thank you for that. All right, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you for your call. Let's go to Germany to Rick. Rick, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Good day, Brother Sharpton. Good day.
Good day.
I just want to say that America is in trouble. Do you know what the King of England had to say when he addressed Congress?
I've heard some of it. I mean, what are you referring to?
No, I'm asking because I haven't checked the videos. On YouTube.
He congratulated the country as the start of the celebrating 250 years, and said that they'd be speaking French if it wasn't for England. He chatted a little, tried to joke a little, but he also reminded them about the Magna Carta and about checks and balances, which many felt was a direct chastisement of Mike Johnson and Republicans in Congress that ought to be checking Trump. So he didn't come right out and attack Trump, but he said some interesting things about the democratic process and checks and balances. And that was the core of what I saw. And I thought it was ironic that they're getting ready to celebrate 250 years of leaving royalty, and they have what's left of royalty to come and kick it off. That was a little interesting to me. Strange.
Well, I think Trump is now waging war against another Islamic country, and hatred against Israel and the United States will last the next 30 years. And according to Sir Isaac Newton, 34 years is about all we have, because he predicted that the world would end in 2060. I'm done, brother man.
All right, thank you for your call. Let me go to Tommy in Chicago. Tommy. Oh, wait a minute, Tommy. Let me take my break. I'll come back to you right after the break. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back.
Tony Wafer, Los Angeles chapter, NASDAQ Network. She just came in here to New York a couple days ago, had to stop by the House of Justice, and I sure enough found some justice, so I know I can leave here feeling like I got peace.
All over the world today, people are gathered in love vigils to celebrate the life of a man that taught the world how to love. People may be wondering why there's such an emotional outburst, but you would have to understand the journey of Michael to understand what he meant to all of us. For these that sit here as the Jackson family, a mother and father with 9 children that rose from a working class family in Gary, Indiana. They had nothing but a dream. No one believed in those days that these kind of dreams could come true. But they kept on believing, and Michael never let the world turn him around from his dreams. I first met Michael around 1970, Black Expo, Chicago, Illinois, Reverend Jesse Jackson, who stood by this family till now. And from that day, as a cute kid to this moment, he never gave up dreaming. It was that dream that changed culture all over the world. When Michael started, it was a different world. But because Michael kept going, because he didn't accept limitations, because he refused to let people decide his boundaries, he opened up the whole world. In the music world, he put on one glove, pulled his pants up, and broke down the color curtain, where now our videos are shown and magazines put us on the cover. It was Michael Jackson that brought blacks and whites and Asians and Latinos together. It was Michael Jackson that made us sing "We Are the World" and feed the hungry long before Live Aid. Because Michael Jackson kept going, he created a comfort level where people that felt they were separate became interconnected with his music. And it was that comfort level that kids from Japan and Ghana and France and Iowa and Pennsylvania got comfortable enough with each other to later it wasn't strange to us to watch Oprah on television. It wasn't strange to watch Tiger Woods golf. Those young kids grew up from being teenage, comfortable fans of Michael to being 40 years old and being comfortable to vote for a person of color to be the president of the United States of America. Michael did that. Michael made us love each other. Michael taught us to stand with each other. There are those that like to dig around mess, but millions around the world, we're going to uphold his message. It's not about mess, it's about his love message. As you climb up steep mountains, sometimes you scar your knee. Sometimes you break your skin, but don't focus on the scars. Focus on the journey. Michael beat him. Michael rose to the top. He outsang his cynics. He outdanced his doubters. He outperformed the pessimists. Every time he got knocked down, he got back up. Every time you counted him out, he came back in. Michael never stopped. Michael never stopped. Michael never stopped. I want to say to Mrs. Jackson and Joe Jackson, his sisters and brothers, we thank you for giving us someone that taught us love, someone that taught us hope. We want to thank you because we know it was your dream too. And we know that your heart is broken. I know you have some comfort from the letter from the President of the United States and Nelson Mandela, but this was your child. This was your brother. This was your cousin. Nothing will fill your heart's loss. But I hope the love that people are showing will make you know he didn't live in vain. And I want his 3 children to know, wasn't nothing strange about your daddy. It was strange what your daddy had to deal with. But he dealt with it. He dealt with it anyway. He dealt with it for us. So some came today, Mrs. Jackson, to say goodbye to Michael. I came to say thank you. Thank you because you never stopped. Thank you because you never gave up. Thank you because you never gave out. Thank you because you tore down our divisions. Thank you because you eradicated barriers. Thank you because you gave us hope. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton time. It's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. The time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. You need to keep it real with Reverend Al Sharpton right here on Uber TV. Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. Let's go back to the phone. Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is. You know, every day, Monday through Friday, I do 3 hours a day on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. I do 1 hour on Sunday mornings with Reverend Al Sharpton. And I'm live on radio and TV with the Saturday Action Rally. 7 days a week, I talk to our people, hear from them, to call in. I'm sick and tired of people talking for people that they don't talk to. So go on www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Listen to my show, call in, express your opinion. You don't have to agree with me. But let's start talking to each other rather than about each other and lecturing at each other. Let's keep it real with Sharpton.
Happy 20th anniversary to Reverend Al Sharpton on 20 years of Keeping It Real. 2 decades of truth-telling, fearless advocacy, and keeping the people informed and empowered. Thank you for always speaking power to justice and standing firm for what's right. Here's to 20 years of impact and many more to come.
Many people cannot focus because they have not really come to terms with their calling and life purpose. In order to focus, you must also be clear on what you're focusing on. So if you're not clear on your purpose, if you're not clear on your life's calling, then focus on seeking that. Because if you just read the ways, keeping it real, keeping it real. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. 1-877-532-5797. And on the message board at nationalactionnetwork.net, I see Johnny McKinley on the message board saying, I love the song They Don't Care About Us by MJ, many others, and that's a remarkable piece. You're right. Question is whether we going to care about ourselves. Anthony Moore says Sharpton buddies headed to the unemployment line. Well, you got it half wrong, Anthony. My buddies have been on the unemployment line. I'm getting them employed. So you got it mixed up. I know you're trying to be smart, but that one bounced back in your face. I fight for the unemployed. So I'm trying to get them employed. That's why we do what we're doing on these private sector things. Now, if you're talking about some of the members of Congress, y'all only got a 2-year lease left on the White House. And I wouldn't be talking about who ain't gonna have a job. Oh, I'm sorry. Y'all have work because many of y'all going to jail. When Trump is gone, and don't pardon all of y'all, pardon himself and his kids, rest of y'all gonna face when a real Justice Department come on. So just keep talking smack. Keep listening to me every day. Keep tweeting and on the mess board so we can keep up with each other. Let's do that. Let's go to Tommy in Chicago. Tommy, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton. Is Tommy there?
I'm right here. Let me say this to you very quickly. The reason why I didn't say anything at first is because that's how gravely serious this treacherous act is. And this counts for every year that from the moment you hit the microphone to this moment, you cried out into this wilderness of Fools Incorporated, that this is what we could face. And now here we are. And people are still running around acting brand new and acting like there's no way out of this. Well, there is a way out of this. And the way out of this is a message has to be sent. And that message can only be sent through the will of the people. And to think that our own who look like us and talk like us, but lead differently from us. This is a moment at a time. Ain't no such thing as brand new anymore, Rev. And to say thank you is not enough for an individual who's been called everything under the sun. I remember when they say ain't no more need for you. Go sit down somewhere. A black man is in the White House. And look where we are today, Rev. So to the listening audience, you know, keep hope alive. Yeah, it's more than keep hope alive. Now you have to vote because we're going to have 2 more years of this insanity. And the only thing you can do at this point is ask the eternal God, what next? Have a blessed show, Doc.
Thank you for your call. And I think Tommy is correct. You know, that's why I say to a lot of the young chapter leaders in NAN, and most of them are young, and on my staff, that, you know, you gonna get hit, they gonna attack you, they gonna criticize you. You gotta believe in what you're doing more than you worry about all that. Because, yeah, when President Obama went in 2008, won the election, and that was, how many years ago? 18? They said we don't need Sharpton, the activist, no more. Got a black president. He was there 8 years, and the 10 years since he was there, we had to fight every step of the way. You had some of the young folk. We don't need the old leadership. And some of us still out here on the front line. And a lot of them that criticize us, I don't know where they at. I happened to run into a young guy, super leftist, he called himself. And he was always critiquing what he called the old guard, me and Marielle and guys that led legacy organizations. And then the last 3-4 years, I heard nothing from him. No writings, he had been a writer, no nothing. And I happened to be coming through the airport, I won't say which city. And I ran in there, I looked, I said, ain't that so-and-so? And my daughter asked, she said, yeah, that's him, kind of like. I said, hey, and he come over and spoke, very respectful. I said, man, what happened to you? He said, well, I said, come on, man, what happened to you? He said, man, I had 3 kids. I had to take care of my family. I said, you did what? He said, I had to take care of my family. I said, so when you out there selling wolf tickets that we all ought to sit down and that we were out there doing the marching and the agitating, you didn't understand we had a family too, but we managed to do both. It wasn't like we didn't have a family. He said, no, I gained a lot of respect for y'all because I didn't know how hard it was to balance both. I said, right. And that's why you just got to let folks talk, Tommy. Because the more you let them talk, they'll tell you more about themselves than they'll tell you about you. Al in Rochester. Al, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Hey, Rev, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you.
I just wanted to make a couple of quick comments about this redistricting. And, you know, Donald Trump, I guess he thinks everybody is stupid and he's the only one that's got sense. You know, well, we're going to change everything to merit and character. that's never applied to black folks here in this country. He knows that, and the only reason he did it is to suppress the vote. So, but moving on, I just wanted to, congratulate you on all the work you have done. The highlight for me when they shot and killed that boy in Georgia with that shotgun, and you supported the family, showed up in court. The defense attorney tried to say, well, we don't want any high-profile ministers in the courtroom. Next day, you showed up with a busload of ministers from all over the country. That was the highlight for me, Rev. And I'd like to give you a thumbs up for that, man. I mean, it was.
Yeah, you're talking about Ahmed Aubrey. They killed him.
Yeah.
Brunswick,
Brunswick,
Georgia. Brunswick, Georgia.
Yeah, we don't want no high-profile minister. I guess he didn't know who he was coming up against.
Yeah, he sure didn't.
But anyway, also, I'd like to give thanks to one of our black entertainers who's not with us anymore, and that's Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
The man broke barriers around the planet, Rev. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
I mean, he married Elvis Presley's daughter.
Yeah.
Which
was taboo. Yeah, which was taboo. That's right.
Yeah. So, I like to give credit where credit's due. In terms of awards, I have one for you and one for Michael Jackson, and that's it for me.
All right. Well, I appreciate your call. Thank you for your call. And Michael and I were very close. I preached his funeral. I did the eulogy and his burial. And I think we posted the other day when Michael came to the House of Justice. Michael came to National Action Network several times when he came to New York. And they tried everything on Michael, and none of it stuck. But he kept going. He made some of the best music in the world, and now a documentary on him has broke all the records for the weekend for a documentary ever. So if you just keep doing what you do, hey, your gifts will make room for you, my mama used to say. Let's go to my extraordinary activist extraordinaire in Chicago, Sister Pam. Pam, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Hi, Reverend Sharpton. I'm suffering with some allergies, so I'm really going to try to get through this. First and foremost, thank you for all that you do and the civil rights leaders. Of course, what SCOTUS, what they've done is an assault, an insult to the legacy of every civil rights worker, leader, advocate who fought for just basic rights to vote. So I am mad. So I know part of our response, Reverend Sharpton, is to mobilize, vote, and do all we can. But I'm also in the mindset, it is time for some payback. Because it seems like they're daring black people to do something every time they strip some right away or some voting, privilege. So what they understand clearly, two things. One, they understand when we do violence, and the other is when we do boycotts. I'm not advocating violence. I don't want to see anything burned down. I don't want to see any of that. But these financial institutions, they have to pay a financial price for supporting someone like this in the White House and all of the Republican policies. We have a fascist party and we have a Democratic party, and we need to be very clear. So, Reverend Sharpton, what is our pushback? And I'm saying I'd like to see us do a mass withdrawal of money, of our bank accounts, closed bank accounts, from these financial institutions. Now, I don't know if that's feasible, but I'll leave that up to you to at least talk about the feasibility and what that looks like. I know May 1st, it's Labor Day. They're asking people to advocate. They're asking if you can not go to work, don't show up at work. Don't spend money. Just make sure it's all about, standing up against these policies.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm asking Reverend Sharpton, to the financial institutions, what is the best way for us to punish them?
Hold 1 minute. Hold 1 minute.
Thank you.
We're going to take a break. We'll come right back. More of you on the phones and Pam and continue this discussion. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Right after this. Keeping it real. Some of you forget where you come from.
We need some room. All right, hold on. Michael Jackson is the highest selling artist of all time. No one has sold more records in the history of the planet than Michael Jackson. But Michael Jackson said to us, he did not want to just raise the issue of what's happening with him. He said that artists all over the world need people to stand up and protect their rights. And he said, Reverend, if we're going to stand up, if it's for all artists, I'm there. As you know, there's a big rally. His fan club is doing this afternoon. But he said, I'm coming to Harlem this morning to meet with community leaders because we want justice in the music industry for all artists. Now there'll be some that say, oh, Michael, are you doing this only because of your situation? Michael came to Harlem 2 months ago for the DNC. Now he comes for his own peers because we discussed it. Kathy and I talked about how we watched James Brown struggle, Little Richard struggle. We've seen artists, black and white and Latino struggle. Somewhere this has to stop. We do not buy records. We do not buy CDs to give money to the company. We buy it to support the artists that we like. And we want the artists to be free. We don't want the companies bigger than the artists. We want the people respected and the stars that we make stars to shine in the galaxy for us. And let me say this is the 4th of July weekend. Michael Jackson is an American story. Him and his family rode from Gary, Indiana, to where he's an icon all over the world. Didn't no one give him anything. He sung, he danced, he created, he produced, he spent hours in the studio. No executive did that for him. You do not have the right to take from someone what you didn't put in them. He created where he is. We appreciated it. We didn't hear about Michael when he got to Sony. We knew Michael at ABC when he was in Gary. They got thrilled when he did Thriller. We was already thrilled. We were already off the wall. And we coming off our seats to stand up justice in the music industry. So let me say one more thing. I don't need that loud talking now. We're on the rail. I want people to hear the message. Let me say something. I read one newspaper say, well, the record company saying they're going to wait and put out the best of Michael Jackson. You can't put out the best of Michael Jackson because the best of Michael Jackson is yet to come. He's still creating. He's still innovating. He's still the king. He's still ours and we are still his. Fans all over the world. Thousands came out in London. Thousands will come out in New York. All over the world, we're going to make it clear that our artists should not be paying back things they had no input in. The promotion budgets. James M. Tume will lay it out. The video budgets. All of this are charged to the artists, yet the artists have no discretion over what to say. So if they want to buy an ad with their friend, Michael can't tell them buy it in Jet Magazine because they decide the budget and charge it to the artists. That's why many of these artists have no money at the end of their career. But he wanted to fight while he was on top. So it will help your child not have to fight one day to go through what they've had to go through. Sammy Davis Jr. died broke. His wife had to become a waitress. Michael said, I owe it to Sammy. I owe it to James Brown. I owe it to Little Richard. We're going to stop this once and for all. Robert Culp used to do a show with Bill Cosby, I Spy, and he did a documentary on breadbasket, Robert Culp.
Oh, wow.
You need to see that documentary. It's great.
Absolutely.
I lived this. I didn't read this. I lived it. I was there.
You're true to this.
I'm true to this.
Not new to this.
I ain't new to this.
Vote to phone Troy.
He was, Jack O'Dell was one of the guys that Kennedy warned Dr. King about. Say he was a communist.
Okay, wow.
Jack O'Dell and Stanley Leverson.
And Reverend brought him in. Nobody else in the movement would deal with Jack. Reverend brought him in. Oh, yeah. Sure. Just her.
Just her.
But there's stories behind all of it. It didn't just happen.
But I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may be in jail, but I am somebody. I may be uneducated, but I am somebody.
I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Let's go back to Pam in Chicago. Pam.
Yes. Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Reverend Sharpton.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Yes. So my question, because right now we're dealing with a bully who hates black people, and he's almost daring us to have some kind of pushback. So I'm saying our payback needs to be towards the financial institutions, because this country is economy and lack thereof. So I was asking your expertise, as well as others that you work with, what is it can we do to punish these financial institutions? To say that black people will not tolerate this hate, we will not tolerate the rollback of our voting rights and civil rights. And these, this is the only way I know how to say it, these white people, whether they're leadership, clergy, wherever, that hate black people, they have to pay a consequence for this. And
I
so,
totally agree. I totally
so
agree. And
where do you
the
think-
only way to to make them pay the consequences, as you say, is we got to take them out of power. Because if you just hurt one of them, which we morally don't agree with, they're only going to replace with somebody worse, and they're going to use the sympathy from that. You got to take them out of power, period, in the story.
Well, I'm agreeing with that, and but I also want to punish these financial institutions.
Yep.
You don't want our black bodies. You don't want our green money.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. Love it.
Thank you, Reverend Sharpton.
Thank you. Thank you. We are joined now, as we are every Wednesday on Policy Day, by our special policy wonk. She is the CEO of Protestant Welfare Agencies in New York, Vice Chairman of the National Board of the National Action Network, and she was kind enough to come on for about a half hour yesterday in the shock of the voting rights decision, but she's with us for the regular Thursday ride. I'm talking, of course, about Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin. Jenny, how are you doing today?
Doing okay. Still a little bit in shock from this ruling, but doing okay overall.
Now, overnight, obviously, all of us were getting calls and different information as we look at the road forward, the way forward. One of the things that I said on one of the leadership calls of the legacy organizations is that we need to distinguish between those districts that were majority black that they're going to try to redistrict, and that have a member in the Congressional Black Caucus. And then you need to deal with these districts that were 40, 50% black, but a black one anyway. Because there's two different strategies. One, you got to deal with the ones that's totally black that they're going to try to eliminate. The other is that you got to energize the ones that they were marginally black, that those blacks got to vote in higher number, and you got to go into the white community that will support us because it's been a good representative. We need to be as methodical as they were in breaking this down, because what I was told by somebody very knowledgeable, and I'm going to do a whole show, the first Politics Nation this weekend, and Saturday is going to be some of them, and I think we're going to book some for Sunday. I want to focus on black vote, why they did this, and how it can still be dealt with. as you fight it in the state courts, is that they are assuming that all the blacks in the Black Caucus are there because they come out of black districts.
Mhm.
Well, that's not true. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries, who will be the speaker if we take the majority of the House, he comes from a district that is not 90% black in Crown Heights and other areas that you're right near his district. So I think that we need to not go for the spook, but say, wait a minute, let's look at this. We need to strengthen this, we need to eliminate this, and we need the lawyers to tell us what is the legal strategy. And it may be from a very local level all the way going national without starting back at the Supreme Court. I think it's going to be a multifaceted strategy, but it must be a strategy, not just a reaction.
It absolutely has to be a strategy. I mean, one of the things that's so upsetting about this is you may recall that in 2013, when the Supreme Court essentially gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which required that when you had localities, local governments, and you had state governments that were seeking to change the voting laws, they were in areas where there had been discrimination against black persons historically, they had to get a pre-clearance before they could change the rules. And one of the things that the Supreme Court said back then was, well, you know, if you have a problem with this, then Congress needs to write the legislation. We just don't think it needs to be in Section 2 in the way that it is. It needs to be rewritten so Congress can make sure that the protections are there if you think that there's still some type of voter discrimination against persons of color. We never got. You fought for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and we never got it. We've never gotten the voting protections established or reestablished or cemented further in Congress. We now have to do that like more than ever, because what this latest ruling does now is essentially it takes out any ability to say that the way that these districts are being drawn, it's going to diminish the black vote. It's actually allowing for partisan gerrymandering and has no problem with that. The challenge here is that, as you just said, if we are not, if we are as a people concentrated, and very often we are, in certain communities and certain districts, and we can't have voting, we have no say. If we don't have a district. And so now what's going to happen is we're going to have congressional legislation that bans partisan gerrymandering.
Right.
And then we're going to have the states to create their own states' legislation that protects black voters, brown voters. And now we also just want to say that we also have to keep in mind, part of this is all coming about, as we also know, because of the browning of America.
Right.
So whatever they can do to dilute the votes. I mean, right now they're saying the browning shall have been affected. We shall be minority majority by the year 2044. They're trying to lock this down now. So states have to act, and we've got to make sure we are putting in place before all of these changes occur. They say it may take 2 years or so before we see all of now the partisan gerrymandering that will go on likely. We could likely lose 70 seats because of this. We have to get out there and vote now so we have people in Congress who will create federal law that protects minority voting rights, and then we have to do the same thing at the states and local levels.
Absolutely. And I think that if we understand that step by step, we can succeed. That's how we got here in the first place. I said to some people, and bring up on the message board, I like that Tanya Stovall is saying that we need to, in every state, we need to find black banks and credit unions and support them. Absolutely. Jennifer and I are working right now to get the city of New York and state to bank some of our tax dollars in our banks. Why are we a third of the population and our banks don't hold any of our tax dollars? But let's take a break. We'll be right back. I want to pick up on this point. Go to more of you on the phones, 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, keeping it real. Be right back.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers.
Some of you forget where you come from and forget how you got there. And act like you got there because you were qualified or that you had a good resume. But some of us had to pay a price for your resume to even be read. Some of us had to take nights in jails and licks upside the head or shut out of boardrooms like Byron so you could walk down red carpets and act like you got there by yourself. So I received this award with a special place in my heart and on my shelf because I'm getting it from a freedom fighter who never forgot where he came from and how he got there. Yes, we've come a long way. We've had now a black president and now a black vice president, but we still can get shot down and have to march to get a case in court. We still can get shut out of boardrooms. We're still doubly unemployed in a good economy. So we're gonna have to keep marching. And I thank not only my family, a mother that raised me by herself, but I thank that lady at the end of the march that knows she won't be on TV that night and knows her name will never be in the paper, but she believed in me enough to get at the end of the line and make me look good. Because Dr. King used to say, if you call a march and no one shows up, you just going for a walk. And I want to thank those that marched with me. 32 years ago, here in Los Angeles, we marched. And then many years later, with George Floyd and others, we're still marching. And I'm gonna keep marching, I'm gonna keep agitating, and I'm gonna keep going. Until we don't have to do it anymore. Eddie, known you a long time, Mariah, Chris, and your kids. And I promise you this, the only thing that I really live for is I get up with this dream that every bigot, every racist, everyone in this country that hates will say, damn, he's up again.
We have a short visit today, so we just wanted to greet you all and thank you for allowing us in. Yes, sir. We was here.
They were on the plantation.
Our family was on the plantation. Wow. And that's, of course, that's the slave house. That's one of the slave houses.
Sir, it's been 13 years.
That's right.
Good to
How
see
you been?
Doing fine. Good.
Right. So that's and we
Alexander Sharpton. How many slaves were staying there?
I have no idea.
This is where they would have a slave.
Yeah, that's when exactly. That was exactly.
I just the two people that most influenced my life are from South Carolina, James and Jesse. Jesse right up the road with me. I went and spoke at his mother's funeral. Jesse walked into my mother's casket. From South Carolina. That's the balance of my life, James and Jesse.
Yeah.
Civil rights, shoulders.
But also where your people come too.
Literally.
Yeah, right.
And where I knew Jesse was from James, I started Brevard.
Yeah.
And James had died before I knew about him in South Carolina.
Oh, really?
Yeah. James died December 25th. He died Christmas Day, 06. And they came to do the story for February of 07. They came in January. His daughter swear that was his daddy and him and pushing the information out.
Wow.
And I called Jesse and told him, do you know that my great-grandfather was a slave about 45, because Greenville right up to our 20. He said, I told you we was connected. That's why you got to listen to me. Many people cannot focus because they have not really come to terms with their calling and life purpose. In order to focus, you must also be clear on what you're focusing on. So if you're not clear on your purpose, if you're not clear on your life's calling, then focus on seeking that. Because if you just read the ways and roads you traveled that you didn't even choose, that were sort of just laid out for you by God, in that it's telling you, speaking to you about what your purpose is and what you were born to do and be. I learned the things that I didn't plan had to be planned by God, and God's plan was directed toward God's purpose. Keeping it real, keeping it real. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is our co-host. Going back to the phones, Jenny, on Policy Day. Before I do, give us, I know from Civil Rights Legacy Organization's call that we're going to do everything from get out the vote and expand our chapters into areas and also mobilize the institutions that are in our communities, like our fraternities, our churches. These are permanent institutions that need to deliver more. On the legal side, what are the legal options, if any, that can answer this? Or because it was a Supreme Court, that ends all, there's no way of getting around any of it legally. You're just going to have to outvote them until you put people in office that can change the law.
So what will likely happen is we'll start to see at the state levels and maybe even the federal government, if we can get legislation passed, the protections, when states move to put in place protections, the result will be that you'll probably start having people challenging those protections. Or let's say you have states led by Republicans that then want to follow the federal government, the Supreme Court, and start doing things that look like there is intentional discrimination against black persons. It's harder to prove it. See, what happened before was that the way that the law was set up, if it had the likelihood of essentially keeping the vote from black people, the state law could be overturned. Now, the way that this has been gutted by the Supreme Court, you can't just do it based on likely impact. You're going to have to be able to show some harm before it can make its way back up to the Supreme Court. So what we have to always remember is that the way that cases get before the Supreme Court, the way this case got here is because something played out at the state level. The state moved to try to add a second district that was largely black. And people claimed that that was actually denying them their equal protection. Non-black voters were claimed that it was denying them their equal protection under the vote. That's how it made its way back up to the Supreme Court. So we're going to have legislation. We're going to have actions that will challenge the law or put the law back before the Supreme Court again.
Absolutely. And let's go back to the phone's message board. I want to read it. It caught my eye. It's very ironic. Tammy Lynn is replying on our message board to Betty Morgan. Betty Morgan, she's saying, Betty Morgan, Al Sharpton is a wolf, Betty. You can't call yourself a Christian or Reverend and support Democrats. They are all that is anti-God. Thank God for President Trump. Now, when you're talking to somebody like that, all you can do is pray for them, because that is sick. She's going to say, first of all, I don't support Democrats. I support the best candidates. And I've never told nobody to just go with somebody because they're in a party. But that's a fact. To argue against something that's not true is not Christian either. But to say that somebody that is convicted of harassing women, convicted by his peers, and has 34 felonies, that he's chosen by God, but the Democrats are anti-Christ. I mean, come on. You're dealing with madness. And if you lie on God, whoever that lady is, then ain't much I can do for you. Because God created heaven and earth way before there was a Democrat or Republican. So, I mean, what are you saying? Do you even believe in what you're talking about? And to use religion in that fashion is cultism. You're not a Christian, you're a cultist. Because the standards of Christianity, you could not say what you're saying. One is you don't judge people, but two, how do you say that? Let's go back to the phone. Let me go to, did we ever get Frank straight on the west side?
Yes, we did, yes.
All right, let me go to my H. Boone Coon, Frank on the west side of Chicago. Frank. I don't hear Frank. All right, I tried him twice. Let's go to the mayor. Mayor Rodney Jones of Queensbridge Houses in New York. Mayor Jones.
Good afternoon, my shepherd. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good afternoon, Miss Attorney Jones Austin. You know, there was an article. Isn't it? It's a coincidence that all 6 conservative justices attended a White House State dinner the night before this major ruling. Now, I don't know about the impropriety or not, but I know none of the liberal justices attended. I don't know if they was invited or not. And also, how is this a ruling affect the Virginia redistricting?
How does the Supreme Court rule?
Yeah, ruling affect the redistricting in Virginia.
Well, I have Attorney Jones Austin answer that. I would suspect that it would be difficult for them to mess with that, since that was voted on statewide, all the voters, black and white. So they can't say that anybody imposed that based on race. That went to a vote.
Right. Okay.
Jenny?
Okay. But also, go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
Is Jenny there? I don't hear
Can you all hear me?
Yeah, now we hear you. Yeah.
I'm right here. Oh, weird. That's so weird. You're spot on. The voters went with that. Now, what is interesting is how they get drawn. Who decides what the drawing looks like could be a challenge, and what it ultimately looks like. But the voters said that they wanted it redrawn to benefit Democrats. Now, the other thing to keep in mind there is that Alito, who wrote the opinion for the Supreme Court, essentially said that partisan gerrymandering is okay. Racial gerrymandering is not. So Virginia may be better off.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because what they can do, based on what Judge Alito spoke for the, but those that voted, majority in favor of taking race out, is whatever they do, they can say, well, this is just partisan. According to the ruling, is they say you can't deal with it as race. Is that right, Jenny? If you don't refer to it as race,
that's right.
It's not violating the ruling.
Okay. Yep, that's exactly right.
All right.
So attending that state dinner last night, that was like okay. Them 6 judges that did that, the night before.
Yeah, I don't know that it's okay, but I don't know that it violates any conflict of interest, because I know when President Obama was in, I went to one state dinner he had for the president of France, and they had Supreme Court justice there. I think it's always a quote honor unquote to be invited to a state dinner, and they do that for certain people at certain levels of society and government and all that. So I don't know that it's a conflict of interest. I saw a lot of Republicans there that night.
All right. Thank you, my shepherd.
All right. Thank you for your call. Brother Jacob in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, WURD, The Word.
Peace be unto you, Reverend Sharpton, and to your guest, Sister Austin. Reverend Sharpton, I forget sometimes that I actually could address you Dr. Reverend Al Sharpton, huh?
Well,
yeah, I know you.
I have a few honorary degrees, but I don't know if that makes you a doctor or not. I know folks that more caught up in their degree and then what they do. So I'm not caught up on that, but I did. 3 or 4 colleges gave me honorary degrees, so I guess you could do that. I didn't earn no doctorate like Jennifer Jones Austin, so I bow to the real doctor.
Yeah. No. They say the honorary doctorate is an earned doctorate based on experience, and sometimes carries more weight than the one where you sat and just read in a book. So,
if the Queen, because we got to say Sir Paul McCartney and Sir Elton John. So if you can be given an honorary by the Queen, I reckon we can do it over here. So, but I know you. But you know what? Some of what you was talking about earlier with these people and what you was talking about, some of them that I talked to, they use that, some like the fact that, we weren't included in that Constitution, and some of the people who signed that thing, they
hold 1 minute. Let me hold you. Let me hold you over the break. We'll be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton, Jones Austin. Be right back. Robert Culp used to do a show with Bill Cosby, I Spy, and he did a documentary on breadbasket, Robert Culp.
Oh, wow.
You need to see that documentary. It's great.
Absolutely.
I lived this. I didn't read this. I was there.
You're true to this.
I'm true to this.
Not new to this.
I ain't new to this.
Vote to phone Troy.
He was, Jack O'Dell was one of the guys that Kennedy warned Dr. King about. Say he was a communist. Jack O'Dell and Stanley Leverson. And Reverend brought him in. Nobody else in the movement would deal with Jack. Reverend brought him in. Oh, yeah. Sure. Just us.
Just us.
But there's stories behind all of it. It didn't just happen.
But I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may be in jail, but I am somebody. I may be an educator, but I am somebody. I am black, beautiful.
So who is Al Sharpton anyway? Who is this 33-year-old preacher without a church?
A number of black New Yorkers as well. He is little more than a pudgy exhibitionist who can be counted on to show up, bullhorn in hand, at every racial incident.
I often quote Mark Twain saying, "The two most important moments in life is the moment you are born and the moment you find out why you were born." I had a very troubling conversation the other day that prompted me to do this little video. Young man that I've known a while came to me and he was crushed. I mean, really crushed, because people were criticizing his work. He's in the ministry, but he's also an actor. And he said he couldn't understand why people were jumping all over, criticizing him, trying to find scandalous and derogatory things about him. And I told him, I said, you know, you very young. You don't know the road I've traveled. They call me everything but a child of God.
Racial discord, a blabbermouth, a loudmouth, too flamboyant, an agitator, a racist,
I
a race
had to
baiter.
learn.
Yeah, right.
I was not defined by how others saw me. I was defined by how I saw myself and whether I was being true to myself. Some of you watching this don't like me. And it doesn't matter as long as I know what I'm doing and I like me for being real. So I'm doing this video to say to you, whoever you are and whatever you do, you may not be in ministry or social justice, none of this stuff, but don't live your life worried about opposition or people that don't like you. You can turn that around. Use me as an example. The same people that call me a scam artist, a con artist, a sellout, or racial hustler and all, I kept going. And the people I respected started respecting and publicly embracing my work.
When Coretta Scott King, the widow of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had this to say about Al Sharpton.
A leader who has protested injustice with a passionate, unrelenting commitment to nonviolent action in the spirit and tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. And I am talking about your leader, our leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
The other thing that hasn't changed is the National Action Network's commitment to fight injustice and inequality here in New York City and across America. And that's not only a testament to Reverend Sharpton, it's a testament to all of you who are here tonight.
First and foremost, to Reverend Sharpton. I saw him when he first came on the scene, and I have marveled at his tenacity, at the development of his intellect, and his devotion to our movement, and much he has contributed to the world we are experiencing. I am honored, and I must say that when I had my debate with Dr. King on the issue of the church and religion, he didn't warn me that after his departure, his space would be filled by another preacher, and that preacher would be Al Sharpton.
All you want in life is people that matter to you to say you did all right. And more important, that you can look in the mirror and say you did all right.
Thank you, Rev. Thanks for that introduction. Look, we've known each other for a long time. I'm grateful not only for your leadership and partnership, but quite frankly, more importantly, for your friendship. And thanks to all of you, members of our nation's most important civil rights organization.
You have been, over all of your years, such an extraordinary leader. You are a voice of truth, a voice of conscience, a voice of practicality around what we must address and what we can do. And I thank you so much for your friendship.
I remember that most of the youth around Al's age, he was about 12, wanted to be like Connie Hawkins, a great basketball player, legend, or Earl the Pearl, or Clyde Frazier. Al wanted to be like Adam Powell, a powerful preacher with a social justice gospel. He was very close to, at that time, the Reverend William Augustus Jones, powerful preacher and social justice advocate, and Reverend Gardner Taylor State right down the street, and Bishop Washington, whose church he came from, and Reverend Sandy Ray. He wanted to be like these giant preachers. He wanted them to have the edge, however, of the King's social justice dimension. He wanted to be like them. Now he's one of them. Perhaps taller than most of them because of the risks he has taken and the reward God has given him with his gift. I remember so well that I first escorted him to jail. He was around 13 years old, with the jail fighting the ANP. He was in the lineage of our struggle. He grew up in it. We didn't just see him on TV one night. He didn't happen. He came bottom up, not top down.
There's nothing wrong with that. No, that doesn't mean you become narcissistic, where you think the whole world's about you. But no, you develop a strong, healthy ego. That's right, I said it. Nothing wrong with a strong, healthy ego that makes you determined to be what others gave up on being, who may have had ability to be it, but they were too weak and they didn't think enough of themselves to do it. Think enough of yourself to do something with yourself. Unapologetic. And it is also in self-awareness and self-acknowledgement and pushing yourself forward. Again, not in a narcissistic way, not in it's me and only me way, but in a healthy ego way, where yes, I'm gonna help others because that's who I am, not because I feel less than and I feel that I'm compensating something by helping others. No, I'm fulfilling me. Yes, I'm going to build and strengthen a family because that's who I am, not because I've been beat down to do it. Celebrate yourself. Celebrate your uniqueness. Celebrate your achievements. Your first responsibility in life is what you do with you. God already gave you life and certain gifts and talents unique unto you. Now what you do with it, and if you do well,
keeping it real, keeping it real. I am your host, Reverend Al Sharpton. Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is our co-host, and I think we're talking to Brother Jacob.
Yes, sir, Brother Peace. I'm back.
Yeah.
Yes. Just to recap, Rev, real quick, some of our people use that. They say, we weren't included in the Constitution. Some of the signers, they owned enslaved Africans. They called you 3/5 of a human being. And I tell them, do you believe that? Right? Because when I work with the numbers, like today, I come out 6/5 of a human. I got to put on Jeffrey Osborne to bring me back down to earth to remind me I'm only human, and that's good enough for me. But this Supreme Court, right? We ain't surprised. These people yesterday voted to try to throw out a lifetime of our ancestors' struggle, right? And do they think that we're just going to take this land down? I mean, we're not going to do anything. But see, the whole world knows that we have the best Supreme Court that money can buy. And Alito and Thomas, oh my God, y'all bought and paid for. And then the other, I think, too, that President Trump put on there, well, they about half scared to say something. Thank God we got the three that descended yesterday. Thank God for them. The Supreme Court has the power, but I think they lost their humanity. Because, again, that ruling in 65, either they're saying to me that the Supreme Court, that put that ruling in 1965, either they were wrong or y'all wrong today for trying to take it out. So these midterms, I'm just saying, man, we're going to do this thing local. We're going to get it. We're going to do what we got to do. Because, Reverend Al, I was with Ain't No Stopping Us Now. They used to say they can slow us down, but ain't no stopping us, right?
That's right.
And the Godfather told us we got to get on the good foot.
Right.
And that's what I think America's going to have to do. And we gonna stop this bleeding, and we gonna vote these bad people out and start cleaning the swamp. But we the people gonna do that.
Yeah.
Right, Rev?
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
And the Godfather also said, you got to use what you got to get what you want. And what do we have? We have the ability to organize. We have the ability to mobilize. And I'm not talking about thousands that I'm asking you to do. I'm talking about in your house, on your job, in your social club. See, look what happened. Now, all we got to do is come together now, and we need to vote with a passion. We need to support our businesses and stop supporting people that don't support us. And we need to stop the daydreaming and the conspiracy theories and the pie in the sky stuff and deal with something real. Because these people are gassing us up with all this foolishness while they're taking power right on the ground. Jenny, the fact is when Brother Jacob mentioned the Supreme Court in 1965, first of all, it was the legislature, the Congress, that passed the 65 Voting Rights Act. It was, renewed every several years by the Congress, and the court didn't start chipping away till around 2014. But the reason that court didn't do it before is because the justices that were put on the court were justices that had been nominated by the people that put them there, the president at that time, in this case, Lyndon Johnson, and after Johnson, others all the way to Bill Clinton, which goes back to voting. The reason this court could do this is because Trump had several members on the court he nominated and got through. If people remember, it's a matter of history. You can go on Google or AI, wherever you want. We said we wanted a black woman on the court. This did not come from the White House. It's come from us. We got Biden to agree to it. Biden put Ketanji Brown Jackson on the court. That didn't just happen. Obama put Elena Kagan on the court. I got I was saying before you came on, Jenny, a handwritten note here where Kagan thanked me for going around campaigning for her. But we get people on the court, we ain't done nothing. They get people on the court, they change the course of history. We got to stop minimizing what we do. Jenny?
Thank you. You also had me thinking, sir, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You also had me just thinking about how, with Dr. King and the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, what was ushered in was a different mindset, like different socialized norms. Inclusiveness became a norm. Anti-racism was now, while not necessarily embraced by everybody, these things became social norms. And so, being inclusive, being, not being racist, not being biased, these were established social norms. And so then you had people in positions of leadership and authority who would not want to look like they were going against a socialized norm. But what has also happened is Donald Trump and his cronies have said it's okay now to be anti-black, to be anti-immigrant, to be anti-woman in certain respects, to be anti-people of different nationalities. They've said to be anti-trans, to be anti-gay in some respects. And so what then happens is when people get into these positions of leadership and authority, they now think it is acceptable practice in a way that we've been conditioned, even if people's minds weren't changed. They'd been conditioned to believe you can't sit on a court and do something that goes against what is now considered a norm.
Right.
That's changed.
Let's go to Fred in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Fred.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good.
Hey, my thought is, with this, now is the time for whatever Democrat leaders to come with a inclusive strategy that we're human, no matter what party you are, and to win over, just like, we had that small percentage that voted Republican. There's a lot of Republicans out here that, they probably won't admit in public that they're against Trump, but if you can convince them that, hey, we got to get back to a respectful government. We look at the cost that this is costing you. We're spending $2 million a day on war, but yet your gas prices are going up. Okay, your food cost is going up. This is affecting all Americans. It's not just, it don't matter what party you are, and there's no answer in sight. And, have to bring a message that resonates with people that don't give numbers. Like I read this morning, I think the economy 2%, but, that needs to be broken down as far, well, who's making the money? Who did it actually help? Was it the corporations? Did they make a better profit? Or what? The workforce. So, numbers can be manipulated when it comes to percentage. I always use the example, said, okay, you had 100 murders last year. This year is 10% down. Okay, it's still a lot of people killed. There's 90 people that were killed. So 10 less were killed. So, we got to be careful with numbers. They have to have a message that pull those Republicans that are, upset, bring back those people of color that thought, well, for whatever reason, they didn't look at this man's moral value. They're looking at finance. They're looking at their 401k. They're looking at the stock market as far as making money. But, and then they have to realize, okay, you a person of color, go to different parts of Mississippi, Alabama, the South. You can even go to different parts in Wisconsin where, if they find you after something happened to you, you're lucky if you're still alive. So there has to be a better message and that reaches all the people where, kind of to get away from it. Oh, what the Republicans did this. Yeah, we know what they did, but preach to the people where give them hope and that, hey, there got to be some changes. We're at war for why? It makes no sense.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. I think that's got to be a legal strategy. Jennifer, I think that he hit something that is absolutely correct. Let's get ready to take our break. We come right back. More of you on the phones, 1-877-532-5797. Sharpton, Jones Austin, keeping it real. Be right back.
We have a short visit today. So we just wanted to greet you all and thank you for allowing us in. Yes, sir. We want to go go. Yeah. We was here.
They were on the plantation.
Our family was on the plantation.
Wow.
And that's, of course, that's the slave house. That's one of the slave houses.
Sir, it's been 13 years.
That's right.
Good to
How
see
you been?
Doing fine.
Right, last time. And we,
Alexander Sharpton.
How many slaves were staying there?
I have no idea.
This is where they would have a slave.
Yeah, that's when, exactly. That was, exactly.
I just feel the two people that most influenced my life were from South Carolina, James and Jesse. Jesse right up the road with me. I went over his mother's funeral. Jesse walked me to my mother's casket.
Wow.
Two South Carolina. That's the balance of my life, James and Jesse.
Yeah.
Civil rights, shoulders.
But also where your people from too.
Literally.
Yeah, right.
And where I knew Jesse was from James, I started Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And James had died before I knew about him in South Carolina.
Oh, really?
Yeah. James died December 25th. He died Christmas Day, 06. And they came to do the story for February of 07. They came in January. His daughter swear that was his daddy and helping pushing the information out.
Wow.
And I called Jesse and told him, you know that my great-grandfather was a slave about 45, because Greenville right up to I-20. He said, I told you we was connected. That's why you gotta listen to me. But no.
I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. Just break. I believe that.
Good morning, everybody. I hope the coffee has kicked in by now. I want to start by thanking your leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and everyone at the National Action Network for 35 years of standing up for civil rights and opportunity for everyone.
And I couldn't be more grateful for the way that you have blessed the lives of so many, including mine.
As we look today on King Day, let us not forget that we had to struggle to even have this day. They did not wake up one morning and say, let's give a federal holiday to Martin Luther King. People petitioned, people marched. Let us remember now as we bring our children and grandchildren up the Potomac, that they can see the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial, the Jefferson Memorial, and one memorial that never served as president, but changed this country more than any other American, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
This was an amazing MLK breakfast.
It is truly an honor, and more importantly, this is an important day for us.
I feel incredibly lucky and honored to be in this room on this day, celebrating Dr. King's legacy of civil rights, especially in the moment that we're facing on a national level. It feels like warmth and home being in this room.
So I'm encouraged by today. I'm encouraged that we're getting out, we're protesting, but more needs to be done. We need to lean in.
And let's keep fighting because the job is not done here. And I just feel so honored to get this award. It's not about getting an award, it's about doing the work. And let's keep up with the work.
I had a thought this morning that I want to share with you about mentorship. I am able to do a lot of what I do because I had great mentors, but there are correct ways and incorrect ways to mentor people, in my opinion. I was mentored as a boy preacher by Bishop F.D. Washington, one of the great Pentecostal preachers of his time. Then Reverend William Jones, who became my pastor after Bishop Washington died, who was unquestionably in the top 5 black church ministers, theologians. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who I started my activism under his leadership, he and Reverend Jones. And I learned politics directly as a youth director from Shirley Chisholm. So even though I didn't finish college, I had the most unique education in the world from being exposed to giants. But the one thing I learned is as I grew older and people started coming younger than me and wanted me to teach and mentor them, the magic of the mentors I had is they did not want me to be their clone. They wanted me to learn things from them and use my own gifts and talents in my own unique way and let me do things on my own, because they knew that if I flopped in some things, it would teach me for the other things. They'll come and help me once I was down, but they were not going to have me avoid being down. And they were not going to impose themselves on me. Why am I saying that? Because too many mentors want clones. And too many mentees want their mentors to put them on a pedestal. Oh, so-and-so didn't do this for me. Oh, so-and-so didn't open doors for me. If they got to open doors for you, it may mean that they knew you weren't ready to go through those doors. Their job is to prepare you. Your job is to develop your own skills, your own unique ways. And I don't care if it's my daughters, who both have come into their own, or anyone else. I'm not a talent agent. I did not form National Action Network to give people their step up. I formed it to fight for justice for everybody. If talented people get in, it's my job to invest and give them a platform. It's their job to get on the platform and perform and show their ability. Sitting with me today in the office as I talk about it is one of my mentees, Reverend Stephen Marshall. Now, Stephen, you just came around us when you were how old?
11 years old.
11 years old. You just turned 40 and now you're called to the ministry?
Yes, sir.
And what do you do in National Action Network?
I formulate policies, lead in various regions, but most importantly, I senior advise you on all things from social justice strategies, politics, intergovernmental affairs, you name it, community organizing, all of that stuff.
And I could go through scores of others. My daughter started Huddle. They got Huddles now, which is for young people to meet once a week all over the country. I just saw the video from the Las Vegas National Action Network chapter. Now, when you decided to preach, did I ever tell you to become a preacher?
Not one time.
Who called you to preach?
The Lord.
All right. And did I say go to this school or that school?
No, sir.
Did I open this door, that door? Did I tell you be ready when the doors open?
Always be ready and prepared.
And that's what I'm saying. Get you some young people than you that you can help along the way. But don't be their talent agent. Their talent must speak for themselves. And anybody that grumbles with you about so-and-so didn't do something for them,
Reverend Al Sharpton, Attorney Jennifer Jones Office, our co-host. Let's go to Patricia in Atlanta, Georgia. Patricia. Is Patricia there?
Here. Hello, Reverend Al.
Yes.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
You're the voice in the wilderness, crying out, trying to help us. My God. But, the more you do, the more our people just, don't believe. Because, Reverend Al, when you look at the belief of, say, the right wing with the nationalism and their belief, Trump is aligned with Viktor Orban over there. His ways, his beliefs, they've made this it's almost, they sat and they planned to have it this way. And when he did not get reelected, they don't discuss that enough of what Trump has planned for America, just like what Viktor Orban, wanted in his country. And so this time the election shouldn't so much be about, parties, because, when you say the right wing, what are we talking about here? When they say they're conservative, look at the views, Reverend Al. What is what is it all about? What are they really for? Other than it's just a racist party. And for this, the lady prior that you said mentioned that you should be the one. Are they really looking at their party and their behavior and what they're doing? So this year, this election shouldn't be about partisan issues. It has to be about where do you want this country to go? And we need to say that enough and drill down, because you're going to have to come out of your conservative beliefs to take the country back to a place where you elected President Obama at one point. He couldn't have won if enough people didn't believe, in equalism. So we need to go back there and let go of this nationalist idea. We still need to have this country be democratic. And I'm just ashamed of Clarence Thomas. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for your call. I think that she makes a good point, Jenny. We need to deal with real issues.
Yeah, like as she was talking, I was thinking about Dr. King's book that he wrote, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? And essentially what he was saying in that book is that, that there's a segment of this nation and society that if it must tear down democracy, like even though it's not a perfect democracy, if it has to tear down in order to maintain and uphold fascism and authoritarianism, then that like authoritarian way of governing, in order to maintain and preserve power in the hands of the few, it will do just that. And the only way that we can counter that is if we find ways of unifying more and more and more, because that segment is not as big as we would think it is. It's just the one that has a lot of the power.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to Todd in Cleveland, Ohio. Todd, it is Policy Day.
Reverend Al Sharpton, Jennifer Jones, Austin. I'm going to bring this up again next week. Justice Alito's majority opinion on the case down in Louisiana. And the reason why I'm going to bring it up again is because I believe his opinion, his majority opinion, and what he said in the Moe case when the attorneys for Moe were being pressed by him to describe what qualifies as race, he made a point of, are Southern Italians considered white? And he made a couple other comments about Greeks, questions about Greeks and people from Turkey, things like that. Everybody except for the people from Haiti, okay, which is what the Moe case was heavily about. But if you read his opinion on this Louisiana case, and then watch the Moe case in its entirety, you'll grasp something about Alito that maybe everybody doesn't know. He's actively pushing the country to focus more on social economics as opposed to race. And his opinion, he makes a point of, if we don't disentangle, he used the word disentangle. If we don't disentangle race from politics, he implied that there's going to be a continuous problem going on. And he was referencing Section 2 of the Voters' Right Act, which at the end of his opinion, he made a point of being a noble cause. So here's my issue with it. And I don't necessarily always think that Alito is moving on the wrong side of the Constitution. But here's where I am with it. Race having a presence in a political decision does not imply an entanglement. Are you two in agreement with that? Not necessarily implying entanglement. Race being involved in a political decision. Are you with me on this?
Say that again. I want to make sure I understand.
Race being present in a political decision to advance a political cause is not necessarily implying that there's an entanglement because race is present. Race.
What do you mean by an entanglement? I think the question is, what do you mean by entanglement?
Well, I'm assuming
by the nature of what you're saying, entanglement. Maybe you're saying entanglement isn't necessary. bad necessarily.
What he's tangled by its own, by definition, means to closely knit something into a state of confusion. And a lot of people think that once race is introduced into something, it's particularly politics, confusion comes in with it. And that's not necessarily the case, because often race in a political decision does disentangle confusion. Absolutely. It prevents malicious confusion mongering to advance. So to want to take away race out of politics, and particularly in Section 2 of the Voters' Right Act, is it's a little weak. It's left a little weak from where I'm standing. But I understand his point. I mean, his pursuit rather. He wants things not to be so racially divided by getting rid of race in decision making. That's where Alito is with a lot of things.
I think you are being very generous to Alito.
And then he goes on.
Yeah, you're being generous.
And then he goes on to say something that's very conflicting. He says, if you use the, Section 2 in a cynical way to advance a partisan's the direction, then you're going to pervert the Section 2 of the you're going to pervert the whole meaning for the Voters' Right Act. Well, here's the problem. Section 2 and the whole Voters' Right Act is designed to avoid perversion. The whole thing is designed to avoid perversion. The whole thing is designed in order for things to go in a clear, fair-minded way for all those involved in the voting process and those that benefit from it. And when I forget the woman's name from Harvard, who's one of the justices, she wrote the minority opinion. When she said you reduced it to just being a piece of paper,
Kagan.
She's close.
Well,
Kagan,
let me say this, and not Jenny certainly wants to weigh in. I think Alito was not nearly trying to be correct. I think Alito was clearly trying to take race and the racism that has been a history in this country off the table. And I think that that was a deliberate and pointed attack on those that clearly know that they first denied blacks the right to vote, didn't give us protection, which is why 65 Voting Rights Act was there in the first place, and that we have been targeted and profiled in elections and voting all the way up to now in certain states. And he denied that and took our weapon of being able to deal with that. He left it to where, as Kagan said, it's just a piece of paper. Because the way he's saying it is that unless somebody just calls you an N-word to your face and has a hood on, it ain't racist. I mean, it's crazy. Right. That is insane to act like systemic racism doesn't. But the hypocrisy, ironically, is what you mentioned. So he says it's all right to gerrymander by political party, but don't consider race. So in other words, you can make sure there's enough Republicans in a district. You can make sure there's enough Democrats in a district, but you can't make sure there's enough blacks who were historically locked out. Now that's as jilted as I ever heard. He didn't say there was, that's what he said. What do you mean that's not what he said?
Majority opinion. Not in his majority opinion, that is not what he said. But I'll listen. I'm still listening.
First of all, we can have different opinions. We can have different facts. That is what the opinion said.
What the opinion says.
And he voted for it. Hold on a minute. What? Come on now, Todd. We always can debate, but you can't change. Todd, the man said that. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, that doesn't mean you become narcissistic, where you think the whole world's about you. But no, you develop a strong, healthy ego. That's right, I said it. Nothing wrong with a strong, healthy ego that makes you determined to be what others gave up on being, who may have had ability to be it,
but they were too weak and they didn't think enough of themselves to do it. Think enough of yourself to do something with yourself. Unapologetic. And it is also in self-awareness and self-acknowledgement and pushing yourself forward. Again, not in a narcissistic way, not in a it's me and only me way, but in a healthy ego way. Where yes, I'm gonna help others because that's who I am, not because I feel less than and I feel that I'm compensating something by helping others. No, I'm fulfilling me. Yes, I'm gonna build and strengthen a family because that's who I am, not because I've been beat down to do it. Celebrate yourself. Celebrate your uniqueness. Celebrate your achievements. Your first responsibility in life is what you do with you. God already gave you life and certain gifts and talents unique unto you. Now what do you do with it? And if you do well with it, celebrate it. Unapologetic.
Yeah, I'm out at Brooklyn. Now I'm down in Tribeca, right next to the Narrow. But I'll be hood forever. I'm the new Sinatra. And since I made it here, I can make it anywhere. Yeah, they love me everywhere. I used to cop in Harlem. All of my Dominicanos right there up on Broadway. Pulled me back to that McDonald's. Took it to my stash spot, 560 State Street. Catch me in the kitchen like a Simmons whipping pastry. Cruising down A Street, off-white Lexus. Driving so slow, but BK is from Texas. Me, I'm out that Bed-Stuy, home of that boy Biggie. Now I live on Billboard, and I brought my boys with me. Say what up to Tata, still sipping my top. Sitting courtside, Knicks and Nets give me high five. I be spiked out, I could trip a referee. Tell by my attitude that I'm most definitely from.
It's so high off the ground, sending for an angel to bring me high. Girl, where did you come from? Got me so undone. Gazing your eyes got me saying, what a beautiful lady. No ifs and maybe I'm releasing my heart and it's feeling amazing. There's no one else that matters. You love me, and I won't let you fall, girl.
Don't get it twisted. Everybody hollering loud ain't saying something. We need activists that are at large, but we need those that will continue these institutions and these organizations. If you are what you should be, you don't have to have nobody step aside. People will push you up.
History is this. He said we always go one step forward and two backward. Well, here we are now. The problem is not Trump. The problem is us. We are allowing ourselves to be lowered and our children to feel inferior because you don't have an I am somebody person. You got our artists calling our women bees. Our others calling us niggas. What happened to us? What happened to black and proud? What happened? I'm gonna vote. What happened? Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. What happened to us?
Reverend Sharpton, how do we begin to make peace with our past?
I don't think it's our obligation to make peace with our past. I think it's our obligation to learn from our past and to understand that soon we gonna be the past. I mean, a lot of us act like we gonna be permanent and that the past is the past. If we draw on the strengths of the past and uphold the dignity and the integrity of our people and then perform it at our highest level in our generation, as Dr. Moss said, that's our obligation. You know, one of the reasons that I've been so concerned about this cultural tone that we're in now is a lot of us have lost the dignity that our community has shown from Jamestown to now. I've questioned some of the artists that no longer sing to uplift us. And there's never been a generation that didn't use our music and our culture to lift us up. And the excuse is where they say, well, we just want to show what's there. But we never just accepted what was there. We always looked at what was there and looked through it and brought our people the way it needed to be. So in slavery time, we were singing Go Down Moses and Swing Low Sweet Chariot. We wasn't singing about the cotton picking nigga in the field. That's what we saw, but that's not what we sang. In slavery, in segregation time, we were singing We Shall Overcome. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. We wasn't singing The Hole in the Back of the Bus. So where is this coming from?
And don't forget Politics Nation with Al Sharpton, live at 5 Saturday and Sunday. And I've been on the phone. I'm going to have a large part of both nights, but Saturday night and Sunday, on having those that are in position to say exactly how we should move forward, exactly what happened here, and exactly what should go forward. So make sure you watch Politics Nation. It's going to be a special segment on this whole voting rights thing, longer than usual. I'll have other news that I'll deal with, but that is going to dominate because this is critical. Politics Nation with Al Sharpton, live at 5 on MS Now. Don't forget, you that in the New York area, New Jersey area, Connecticut area, you'll want to be with me at the Saturday Action Rally at Mother AME Zion Church in Harlem, West 137th and Lenox. I'm going to lay out what NAN is going to do at Hit the Road to deal with the response to this vote by the Supreme Court. Jenny, I think you was going to respond to some of what Todd was saying.
I'm just going to add, like you talked about, like it being, you can't disentangle them. And look, I guess the point that I think we need to bring home is that with Alito having done what he did and essentially saying, well, we can uphold partisan redistricting. I don't have a problem. He doesn't have a problem with that. He's got a problem with racial redistricting. The problem he has with racial redistricting is that it benefits black people. We don't racially redistrict. He's not like the suits haven't been brought since the Voting Rights Act to favor racial redistricting for white Americans, but to make sure that black Americans are, have their votes essentially, in a block that can be counted. If he did not see, politics and race as being one, then, or if he understood what partisan politics is all about, partisan politics in America right now is about taking away all economic and political power from black people, people of Hispanic origin, not even beginning to think about immigrants having it. So when you uphold partisan redistricting, you know exactly what you're doing.
So at the end of his quote, and I read the whole majority opinion, but I'm referencing this particular quote that he put in. If Section 2 is cynically, and I'm assuming the man is being strict in his language, free from innuendo. If Section 2 is cynically used to advance some partisan end, then the noble goal of the Voters' Right Act will have been perverted. Cynical, and he's referencing partisan. So he's saying that partisanship has its place and it shouldn't be cynically used. And he's also saying prior to that that there is some occasion where race is causing an entanglement with politics that is not working to the advantage of the common good. So what's the answer here to what ultimately happened? I asked this question last week to the two of you. What do you think the remedy would be? I didn't give my answer, but I had it. First thing we need to do is get rid of gerrymandering. There needs to be an all-out effort by all those that are involved, voting and working as taxpayer-funded employees, and those that are voting that are not, to get rid of gerrymandering altogether. And we
need to get rid of partisan gerrymandering. The way that politics is set up in this nation, in this moment, politics are set up in a way to disadvantage the most marginalized and to further disenfranchise those who've been marginalized. That's the way that politics is set up. That's partisan politics right now. Republicans are not just, talking about, we want the government to be small just because. They just turned around and ballooned it in certain respects with respect to war. Where did they hollow it out? They hollowed it out in areas that disproportionately impact people of color, on jobs, on wages, on SNAP, on health care.
Well, you're saying people of color.
I'm saying
people of color, and that's true. A better description of what has been going on is not so much that it's been people of color. It's been people that are in the social economic middle class toward the bottom of that range. The middle class has a range.
Right, but it's a disproportionate impact. And I think the only thing that I would say to you, Kyle, let me just say this and then I'll be quiet. All of this has been going on since the beginning of the founding of this nation.
That's true.
Where those in power have used race. They've othered people in order to secure advantage for themselves. And so, yes, it is the case that the masses in America who struggle are of all races and ethnicities. But what they've been very successful at is figuring out how to use other people. Why is poverty such a dirty word? Because you now get to other low-income people and make them undeserving. Black people are undeserving. Hispanic people, immigrants. That's the way structural economic deprivation works. The withholding of economic and political power. And whoever gets hit by it, but it's all to preserve power in the hands of a few.
But let me say this before you respond, Todd. I accept what Jenny just said, that they are always othering people, and I think you said some of that. But where I say race cannot just be eliminated is that we're the only ones of those deprived people that by law was put in a position specifically based on race. We didn't make it specific, they did. So you cannot answer it in a general way when they were specific. They said no blacks had a right anyone was bound to respect. They didn't say no poor people. So let's be real clear. If you were black, you had no rights, even if you got to a free state. If you were black, you couldn't vote in certain states. Even you could be dirt poor, a robber, whatever, a low class white, or anybody else could be. You did not have legally been excluded. You could have been a black with millions of dollars and couldn't vote at a certain place because your race was identified. You cannot eliminate racism without addressing racism. Now, if you're going to say, Reverend Al, that's true back then, not now, well, then let's look at the evidence to see that we've overcome that racial barrier. And let's establish what is the criteria that we decide that. But you don't just arbitrarily stand up and say, that's over with. We're not doing that no more. And not even analyze whether or not you solved the problem that you caused.
Native Americans did not get citizenship until 1924.
But they were not banned from citizenship by law. They did not get it because there was the practice of not letting them come off of certain communities and all. I'm talking about this was written in the law. A Native American could have changed. A Native American could have put on a suit and tie and went downtown Milwaukee and said, "My name is Wilson," and vote. Blacks couldn't do that.
What I'm saying is the remedy to what just happened, the wrong that just happened with this decision yesterday, is two things. One, as I already stated, there needs to be a major aggression to get rid of gerrymandering across the board.
And that would include for Native Americans and everybody else, because they did disenfranchise Native Americans. But what they didn't do to anybody, and I'm for more than anybody dealing with Native Americans' rights and everybody else, but I'm addressing it as race because that's what they said you can't do. And I'm saying you can't take this racism out of it when you put it in there. Now, if you want to say, yes, we need to deal with racism and Native Americans and this and that, I'd agree with that. But they took racism out of it like it was solved, and it's not solved.
It is not solved, and race should be. I'm reasonable. I think it's reasonable. I know it's reasonable for race to be part of some decision making. It's okay with that, but I understand where the dude is claiming he's coming from when he uses the word entangle. But a race being present doesn't mean things are tangled. The second and final thing that I know is a remedy to this is there has to be more focus on the social economic conditions of the whole population, no matter what their race is, in picking people to go into the legislation.
I agree. I agree with that.
And if we don't. And that is and let's be realistic, as harsh as it may be, a lot of poor people don't like to hear this, and a lot of rich people don't like to hear this either. The social economic middle class, wherever your county may be, if you fall in there, this is where the power of the economy is. It's primary in the social economic middle class, and we should be first in priority of how legislators are picked. And we have to focus on that. So get rid of gerrymandering and focus more heavily on social economic conditions of the area, particularly what qualifies as middle class for that area. And let me say this in exit. I've said it before. We got to get rid of electoral college. This is a separate matter, because at the 12 most populous states, if you win the 12 most populous states in the next presidential election, you've essentially won the election, and it doesn't matter what the other 38 states.
Well, that's true. But I would bring back Jennifer's point because I think it's a salient point. They did not get rid of gerrymandering. They got rid of race. They had no problem with gerrymandering. Their problem was race.
No, they didn't get rid of race. It's still there.
They said you cannot deal with it based on race.
As an entanglement. I'll be back next week.
Yeah, please, Todd. Please, because I think that it is clear what their decision is. Let me thank Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin. Let me thank all of you that called in, listened in, you that called in and couldn't get through, but hung in there anyhow. Remember, whatever you do, wherever you go, however you feel, tell somebody, tell anybody, tell everybody. Reverend Al told you personally, keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real.